This is a rough one, because I was hyped for this game, and I really enjoyed the first 10 hours of it, at least mostly. The endless walking got old real quick, but dealing with the natives, going into the cave system, and building was fun. The companions were a great addition and the building was great to play around with, but after those 10 hours I started thinking, is that it? I felt like I had already experienced most of what the game had to offer and felt like it was missing a lot. I realized this is an early access game, but I expected more would be ready now. It feels like we got the foundations for the systems in the game with a little on top. Sure, it's early access and we'll probably get more content, but remember that The Forest, the original game, still has a lot of rough edges. If you like this video, then subscribe, and if you hated the video, leave a comment that destroys my self-esteem. Shouldn't be too hard. Gameplay. A big part of the game is walking around and picking up items on the ground, and walking to objectives on the map, and walking to different parts of the island because they might have different items or animals to hunt. And it's a big island, so it's a lot of walking. That's probably the most tiresome part of the game. Holding down shift and the W key for 15 minutes tends to suck the fun out of your experience. But I will take some blame on that, because I didn't use the rope gun enough, and I didn't figure out how to use the sled until I had finished the story that's currently available to us. They gave you a GPS map from the start, and I love that. Wandering around in the original game with a PNG of the map on the second screen, kinda hoping you're going in the right place, lost its realistic survival experience novelty real quick. It's a lot of walking, but it is broken up by the random cannibal patrols, but I've never run into an enemy I couldn't just run away from. And combat is more often than not riskier than it's worth. And of course, if it's getting darker, then you should really stop walking and either make a tent or some shelter, because the darkness is really dark. Practically pitch black, as if the moon didn't exist. Not seeing enemies is bad, plus it's just annoying to get around in the dark. And that brings us to the building. In The Forest, you used to build by just placing blueprints and then putting materials in them, and you can still do that in Sons of the Forest, but now you can just place materials freely on the ground. Mostly. That's great. That way you can make some awesome imaginative buildings, and cutting down trees is incredibly satisfying. But getting all the logs to the building you're trying to build is tedious, especially when making defensive walls. The Forest had a solution by letting you make the log sled, which isn't in Sons of the Forest currently. But they did give you Kelvin. I love Kelvin. He's my favorite good boy. You can order him to get logs, sticks, rocks, and fish for you. And he can put it into storage buildings or drop it on the ground. He's very useful, especially for the fish, but he's kinda slow, at least compared to you. Although the new building mechanic is great, it feels pretty limited right now. You can't make gates for defensive walls. Actually, you can't make any door that enemies can't get through. You only have 2 defensive traps for the cannibals, and what bothered me a lot was that you can only place logs in the middle of other logs. And in some cases I would want to put a log on the end of another log, otherwise it leads to an ugly building. There's no water collector. I'm just really hoping for more building blueprints and a little work on the new building mechanic in the future. Because I expected more. Now let's talk about the combat. When it comes to melee, it works. It's good enough. Just blocking, attacking, and positioning. Nothing else to it. It's mostly left click spam while backing away, but what I really love about melee combat is that you can one-hit kill enemies if you hit them in the right place, like cutting off their head or limbs. What makes the combat fun here is the cannibals, their reactions to you and their tactics. Like when you cut off their leg, they will fall to the ground and writhe in agony before dying. And female cannibals will come to the corpses of their fellow cannibals and cry over them. It's a little too real. As for tactics, they try to hide from you and strike when you aren't looking, but one time, I swear one of them was trying really hard to get my attention so their friend could hit me in the back. Was it intentional or a happy coincidence? I'm not sure, but it was still very cool, and I wasn't even mad about it. I think the ranged combat here is far better than the original. The guns feel good and the aiming is okay for them, but I would like better iron sights for them. And in what universe would I ever possibly want gun attachments to go on top of the gun and restrict the aiming, making it way harder to see accurately where I'm going to shoot? That feels like 10 times worse with a crossbow, which is already kinda hard to aim, especially with a laser sight. It is not helpful at all if I can't ever see where the laser is going because I'm looking at the back of the laser attachment. Leave it to the Canadians to make gun attachments that make the gun worse. Please change the attachments. Either have them under the gun or on the side of the barrel. The crafted bow and the crossbow kinda suck, but the crafted spear, guns and compound bow are great to use. A headshot with any ranged weapon is a one-shot kill for almost all enemies. Well, except for the slingshot, but that's more of a joke than a weapon. The compound bow was my favorite in the forest, and it's still my favorite here. It's pretty hard to beat when you can just get all your ammo back from the corpses of enemies. It's just great to shoot enemies with a compound bow or throw a crafted spear at them and seeing them stagger back or fall down. Blasting them with a shotgun is also great. The combat here is good because of the enemies. If they weren't as dynamic and reactive as they are, then the combat would be mid. Yeah, I'm hip with the lingo. And there is a good diversity in enemy types. I just wish I could make some alliance with the cannibals or at least get on friendly terms with them. Like giving them gifts or something. Also, a weird thing about the combat is that the cannibals are harder than the monsters in the caves. At a later point in the game, I was relieved to go into a cave cause the enemies are pushovers compared to a cannibal raid. Companions don't really affect combat much, Kelvin just runs away, and sure, Virginia can hold 2 guns, but she will come to you for a little while and then just vanish for hours, so she is incredibly unreliable. Yes, I know she is supposed to have cat AI or whatever, but that doesn't mean she has to roleplay an absent father figure. A cat will at least come back to you for food. And sure, befriending her was a cool process, like you have to show her you're not a threat and then she will give you some gifts, but it's hard to appreciate her coolness if she's never around. Also, you can only carry 1 shotgun and 1 pistol at a time, and you can find 2 of each. And it's pretty annoying to me that I cannot carry an extra set of these 2 guns to give to Virginia. Overall, combat is good with some things that really need fixing, like armor. 1 combat encounter and all my armor is gone, and the rope is pretty scarce in the game, and you need it for most things, including the most common armor, bone armor. The inventory is overwhelming. I often open it and just forget why I opened it because there's so much stuff in it. It's a cool way to see all your items right in front of you and then putting things in the middle to craft it, but the longer you play and the more things go into the inventory, the harder it becomes to use. Because I stop knowing where things are, it becomes cluttered and I can barely see the items I'm looking for. Currently, a lot of items don't have many uses or just no uses, and I hope that's just the early access thing and they're gonna add more crafting recipes later. Blueberries, it annoys me that you can only eat one at a time. I really want them to give you the ability to just eat a handful, because otherwise they're useless. Story. In the first forest, all the story in the game was limited to caves and pieces of paper, mostly. And currently that is kinda the case, except that they went softer on the caves and the story is more in these underground bunkers. There are still caves you need to go in, but they're less required and you don't spend as much time in them. Instead you spend that time in these underground bunkers and it's a nice change of pace. As for story, there has to be a lot of story missing. I beat the story in 15 hours and I was taking my time with the game, and I have no idea what the hell was happening in the story. There are 3 cutscenes in the game and watching these cutscenes back to back, it's as if you're watching a scene from the beginning of a movie, then one scene in the middle and then the ending. And there is nothing in the game that bridges the gap between them. Why would you put in the ending like this? Wouldn't you want players to reach the ending with all the pieces of the story that make the ending impactful? Because right now the ending is just, oh, okay, I don't know what's going on. So I'm expecting more story caves or bunkers to come in the future. If they don't, then I'll be dumbstruck. This is a good place to mention that during one of these bunkers I fell through a wall and under the map. I got myself out of it by just swimming to the beach. The story right now is pretty bad. Conclusion. Sons of the Forest is really promising and it is enjoyable now. But there are some frustrations, and you can really feel the missing stuff. A lot of people will bring the argument that it's early access, of course there will be things wrong or missing. And yeah, that's why you should be extra critical, so that developers will actually fix or add things before release. How is the game supposed to get better if we all hold back our criticism because it's early access? In my view, early access is just another way to say beta test. And if you don't want to beta test the game, you shouldn't play the game right now. I've been looking forward to this game for a long time, so I wanted to test it out and give feedback. Because I want this game to realize its full potential at release. I think this game has the makings of a 10 out of 10 experience, it just needs some work before we get there. I don't recommend playing this game right now, unless you want to beta test or just get a quick glance at the stuff here. Because if you go through the game, I think you will be a little disappointed. I was. Let's hope they fix the stuff that's wrong with the game, and I will be able to see the improvements in about a year. Like, subscribe, call me Uncle Brian, and have a day.